Should we give this a go? I've not done anything like this before. Let's see what happens. Come and join me for a little fireside chat. Because, I don't know, if you're a regular on the channel, you know that I make a whole bunch of videos, but they take me 3-4 days to make. There's lots of B-roll, cuts, swooshing noises, graphics. You know, I put a lot of effort into producing my videos, but I also think at the end of it, I would have been better just talking to you, just hanging out with you and telling you how I think about what I think about things, and just having a chat. So I'm going to start what could be the first and only one of these videos, but I'm going to call it 10 minutes with, and I was going to get one of those little timer clock things that you could see the numbers count down on, which would be really satisfying in the background, but I don't have one. So I actually found this sand timer, and I have no idea how long this actually is. It might be an hour. I'm not going to keep you for an hour. I'm also going to set a separate timer, but let's get that turned around. Let's just set a backup timer, because this is, you know, this is a workshop. We're going to see how this goes and whether I make one again. But I just want to talk to you guys, because after my Switch 2 video, by the way, this is 10 minutes on the Switch 2, there were so many comments like, why didn't I really compare it to the Switch OLED? Why has Nintendo got so greedy and why is it so expensive? Why, if you dock it, does it not support VRR on the TV? Apparently it's going to be fixed. There's a ton of different things. So let's just have a little chat, just me and you. And if you've got any questions, drop them below. I will absolutely read all of them. Maybe this should be a live. Maybe it should be a live. Anyway, here we are. And also I will answer some of your questions in the next one of these, assuming people actually watch this and want more of it. Anyway, welcome to 10 Minutes with the Switch 2. I'm me and you're you, and this is the new console. I've had it for a few days now. In fact, everyone on the dog has a Switch 2, right? The weird thing was, I didn't get a pre-order. I wasn't able to pre-order this. I all sold out. So I was thinking, oh, crap, I'm not going to be able to get one. But then on the day of launch, my brother actually, I was driving back from London, and he checked Argos, which is a shop here in the UK, and they had loads in stock. You could just collect them. And then it turns out Nintendo actually also sent me one. So now I have two. Well, I actually now have one because I've given one to my nephew. But they're like buses. You wait 8 years for a new Switch and then two come along at once. So this is Cyberpunk right now playing on here. And this was kind of fun to play with because on the one hand, wow, right? Cyberpunk playing on a Switch. That seems kind of crazy that it can do that. But then also bear in mind that Cyberpunk's what, 4-5 years old now? And it's running on, I don't know, low, medium settings on a handheld. Is that impressive? It's impressive for a Switch, but bear in mind, you know, you could buy any other handheld. I've got a Steam Deck OLED here, I've got the ROG Ally, I've got the Lenovo Legion Go. Which one's this? It's the original Ally. That's the Claw. No one's buying a Claw. There's a lot of ways to play Cyberpunk. It's not a new game. Now, in terms of the performance, people aren't quite sure where this is landing. It's using a custom NVIDIA Tegra chip, I think, what, 239, something like the T239, something like that. Roughly, with sort of associating the performance of like a PS4 Pro-ish, maybe like a Xbox Series S, which is actually pretty good for a form factor like this. What is really interesting though, and I'm excited to see how this develops, is that, and I think they've been smart to partner with NVIDIA again, is that this does support DLSS, that's their AI upscaling. And as we've seen on desktops, laptops with NVIDIA's cards, having DLSS can make a huge difference to your performance, and just means you can get a whole lot more out of your handheld in this case. So I'm excited to see what DLSS will be able to do for the Switch and whether this will be good enough for the next 8 years. Now, in terms of the pricing, this was really interesting to me actually. In the comments, a lot of you guys are saying like, oh, Nintendo's got so greedy, why is it so expensive? Who's going to go out there and spend £400, $450 on a Switch 2? Because, you know, we associate these with families and kids and Christmas presents. It's not an Ally X, is it? Or it's not a, you know, really high-end gaming laptop. But I did the maths. The initial Switch, when it launched, what was it, 2017? I can't remember exactly. It was about £380. Anyway, I adjusted for inflation, the UK pricing, of the Switch 1 launch and the Switch 2 launch. And actually, this is only about £15 more expensive. It really isn't that much more expensive, taking inflation into mind. And also, remember that we get 256 gigs of storage in here. That's the standard internal storage. The original Switch only had 32 gigabytes. So you're paying, I don't know, 15, 20 pounds more than the original one, but you're getting obviously a much more powerful product, but also, what's that? 8 times the storage than the original one. So really, it's not a bad deal at all. I think we all just still associate anything that's over 400 as very expensive. And then the other side of the coin is, well, I'm going to wait now for the Switch 2 OLED. Because in many ways, this is more like a Switch Pro, I would say. Because let's look at it. It's thinner. Is it thinner? I don't even know if it's thinner. It's bigger, obviously. 7.9 inches versus 6.2 on the original one. So much bigger screen. It's also brighter, high refresh rate, VRR, HDR, more powerful, more RAM, more storage, better. I think this design of the magnetic Joy-Cons is much better than the Rail. It is a nice refinement. It's like the Pro version. But if you consider what a Switch 2 means, a big new Nintendo launch, you usually associate it with a little bit more flair, something a bit more interesting. I've got to put my phone on silent. Go away, BBC News. Because the thing is here, in terms of the actual input, what's new here, you have the Joy-Cons, which have this optical sensor, so you can use it like a mouse, which actually works quite well. So for games like, I don't know, Civilization, that would work pretty well. I played it with Cyberpunk as well, so you could actually aim. You'd have the left Joy-Con as your stick for moving around, then the right one for aiming, and you can look down the trigger, look down the sights, and fire your gun that way. So that was quite satisfying. Don't think I'd play the game like that. So that's the one thing, the mouse option to use with the Joy-Con. The other one, of course, is this, the game chat camera, which is one more thing to buy. This is an optional extra. And I had a go at this with my buddy E from Border Work. I'm not sure if you've seen his YouTube and social. Definitely check him out. He's definitely more PC gamery. But we had a little race in Mario Kart on the Switch 2. We had our camera set up, and it was a bit of a faff to set up. It did not look good. And it's one more cable sticking out of either the Switch or the dock, which I have here, by the way. And I was in two minds. I can see that on a Friday night, you can't go to your friends' houses, but you've got 2 or 3 or 4 of you wanting to play Mario Kart World, and you've all got your camera on. Although getting 3 of your mates to pay for an extra accessory is going to be the first challenge there. But then you can all see your faces, so then when you fire off your torpedoes or you do your little, whatever it is you're doing Mario Kart, you can see their reactions. It was quite nifty, but it also kind of reminded me of Xbox Kinect stuff, how, at the start it sounds fun, but then really you're just never going to get it out, and it will look a mess on your table, and so your mum will put it away or your partner, and it'll never get used. So for a Switch 2, where, yes, it's a refinement of the console, but the big 2 new sort of features, if you will, are the game chat camera and the mouse Joy-Con, a little bit underwhelming. So, going back to my point, a lot of people are talking about, well, I'm just going to wait for the Switch 2 OLED, because one of the things I didn't really compare in my video from a couple of days ago was, this is not as big of an upgrade from the Switch OLED. A big issue I had with the original Switch, I think we all had, is this crappy little kickstand here, which just falls off, and with a slight nudge, if you're using it on the train or something, it falls over. Awful. But they refined that on the Switch OLED that had a much wider one, and that's again what we've got here. So that's not really an upgrade if you've already got a Switch OLED. I lost my. Could you say that again? I forgot how to speak. Siri's giving me grief. Back on track. I'm telling you, no takes, no script from this. This is just me talking to you. I will make mistakes. Anyway, this obviously is an LCD screen, which is a shame because we love an OLED. We have a Switch OLED. We have Steam Deck OLEDs. So in games, you're going to get dark grays rather than blacks. The colors aren't as punchy, and even comparing it to my Steam Deck OLED, it doesn't look as vibrant. The flip side of that is it is 1080p, up from 720, so it's double the resolution. It's 120 Hertz, up from 60, double the frame rate. It's brighter, upwards of 450 nits. The previous Switch was up sort of 350. Also, VRR, variable refresh rate, so it can also potentially get you a higher frame rate on this screen. And also, weirdly, it should support VRR and 120 hertz, etc. docked, but I think currently it doesn't. I think NVIDIA said there's going to be a firmware, an update that will fix that, because right now that's kind of a downside to docking it. But I spoke to one of the technical marketing managers of ASUS a while back about why they couldn't do a 120 hertz OLED screen in the Ally. And they just said it was so expensive. Obviously, they would if they could. No one's there in Nintendo thinking, how can we, really make this worse, just so that we have something for the next. Oh, maybe they are thinking that. Maybe. I like to think the best in people, But it's so much more expensive to get VRR, OLED, 120 hertz, and also bright enough. But in a product that's still only going to cost £400 to the end consumer, that's just not possible. So, will Switch 2 OLED be coming? I have no doubt. Yes, I bet. But that will be another couple of years. And at that point, people will say, well, maybe I'll wait for a Switch 3. You guys know this in tech. There's always something else around the corner. You can always wait for the next best thing. And I think that's the case here. Yes, it would be nice if it was OLED, but I understand why. It's too expensive, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is a lovely screen, and I think the bigger issue is, why do you need this if you already have a Switch? I think that's a harder sell. If you don't have one, and this is your first time jumping in, I think great time to buy it. I wouldn't recommend getting an OG Switch or a Switch OLED now. Just get this. But if you already have an OG Switch, I looked up the data. I think 90 million. I think it's like 150 million Switch 1, Switch OLED, Switch Lite have been sold. 150 something million of them, which is nuts. And around 100 million of that or so was the original console. So there's a big market for this, but are all those people going to spend another 400 quid, $450 to get a slightly nicer experience and play a couple of new games? Because right now there's not a ton of exclusive Switch 2 games. That's always the case with new consoles, though, isn't it? You've got Cyberpunk, you've got Mario Kart World, of course. But like with any new console launch, or like if you upgrade your graphics card, oh, crikey. I'm at 11 minutes. This was supposed to be 10 minutes with tech. I'm going to have to rethink this whole format. Also, that is not going to work. Anyway, I've been rabbiting on. I've had a really good time with the Switch. I think if you want to play the new games, you should buy one. Don't get hung up on the specs. And also, I think the price is pretty reasonable. What isn't reasonable, though, is Nintendo charging $10 for that Welcome Tour game. I think that's a bit shady. They shouldn't. You've already spent enough. And also, the games are like 60 or 70 pounds each. And even then, there's this whole DRM issue with, are you licensing the game even though you've bought it, because you're just buying the card that goes in and not the full game data. And it's like, in some scenarios here, this is like the worst case of physical media, where you still have to download it, you're only getting a license of it, but you are still buying a physical thing that you're putting in. We need to have a conversation about that in a longer video, I think. Anyway, any questions, any thoughts, drop a comment below. This is the first time I've made one of these videos, as you can tell, because we've massively run over, and also, this may have just been the most boring thing in the entire world, but hopefully you guys enjoyed hanging out with me. And I'm going to make more of these. We'll talk about everything. YouTube, studios, cameras, Apple, cars, whatever you fancy. And also, leave comments below. And I can't really do it because this is the first episode, but from next time, I'll do like a minute at the end where I answer some of your questions and give you shout outs and just have a bit of a back and forth. It's like a podcast, but where it's just me and I'm talking to you. And that's it, because apparently I just like the sound of my voice. I will have some guests on though occasionally. That could be fun. Let me know what you think of 10 Minutes With. Like and subscribe, all the usual things. Catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys. You were useless.